The maid saw blood on her uniform at 3 a.m. and scrubbed frantically in the dark kitchen. Her Mafia boss found her there, demanding answers. When she whispered the truth, "It's your daughter's blood," his world stopped. The daughter who disappeared 5 years ago was bleeding in his basement, and the quiet maid had just saved her life. Rafael Caldero wasn't supposed to be awake. The insomnia had plagued him for weeks now, ever since the shipment hijacking in Houston left 3 of his men dead. At 52, he'd survived 2 decades as Chicago's most feared mafia boss by never letting his guard down. Sleep was a luxury for men who didn't have enemies. He padded down the marble staircase of his Lake Forest estate in bare feet, wearing only silk pajama pants. The grandfather clock in the foyer read 3:17 a.m. The house was silent except for the distant hum of the security system and the soft patter of rain against the windows. That's when he heard the water running. Raphael's hand instinctively moved to his waist, but he'd left his gun upstairs. Old age was making him careless. He moved silently through the darkened hallway toward the service kitchen, the one the staff used, separate from the main culinary wing where his chef prepared meals. The door was cracked open. Light spilled onto the hardwood floor. Through the gap, Raphael saw her. Lucia Martinez stood at the industrial sink, her back to him, shoulders hunched. She was scrubbing something white and bloody under the running water. Her hands moved frantically, desperately, as if she could wash away more than just stains. Raphael pushed the door open. It creaked. Lucia spun around, her dark eyes wide with terror. She was young, maybe 28, with her black hair pulled back in a messy bun. She'd worked in his household for almost 2 years now, quiet and efficient. He barely noticed her most days, which was exactly how he preferred his staff. But now he noticed everything. The blood spattering her white uniform, the way her hands trembled as water dripped from her fingers onto the tile floor, the apron she'd been scrubbing, now pink with diluted blood, hanging limply in the sink. "Mr. Caldero, her voice broke. Raphael's face remained expressionless, but his mind was already calculating scenarios. A staff member covered in blood at 3 a.m. meant one of 3 things. She'd killed someone, she'd witnessed a killing, or she was injured. The fact that she was standing upright ruled out the third option. "Whose blood is that?" His voice was calm, cold. The voice that made grown men confess their sins. Lucia's lips trembled. She looked down at her uniform, then back at him. "I can explain." "Whose blood?" "I didn't kill anyone. I swear to God, Mr. Caldero, I swear." Raphael took a step closer. Lucia backed against the sink, trapped. He could see now that her cheek was bruised, a purple shadow forming along her jawline. Her knuckles were scraped raw. "You have 5 seconds to tell me what happened, or I call my security team and they make you talk." And Lucia, he leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You don't want them to make you talk." A tear rolled down her cheek. She wiped it away angrily, leaving a smear of water across her face. "It wasn't my blood," she whispered. "It was your daughter's." The words hit Raphael like a physical blow. For a moment, he forgot how to breathe. He had one daughter, Camila, 23 years old, and he hadn't seen her in 5 years, not since she'd screamed at him that she wanted nothing to do with his blood money and his murderous empire. She'd changed her phone number, blocked him on every platform, and disappeared into the vastness of Chicago's North Side. Raphael had respected her wishes. It was the only thing she'd ever asked of him that he'd actually given her. "What are you talking about?" His voice was barely audible now. Lucia's composure cracked entirely. "She's here. In the house. She's hurt, Mr. Caldero. She's hurt bad, and I didn't know what else to do." Raphael grabbed Lucia's shoulders. "Where is she?" "The basement. The old safe quarters. I brought her through the service entrance. No one else knows." Raphael released her and ran. He didn't care about the blood on Lucia's uniform anymore. He didn't care about protocol or security or keeping his emotions in check. He took the basement stairs 3 at a time, his heart hammering against his ribs. The safe quarters were a remnant from the previous owner, a Cold War-era politician who'd built a reinforced panic room beneath the estate. Raphael had converted it into emergency housing for situations that required discretion. He hadn't used it in 3 years. He punched in the code with shaking fingers. The heavy door hissed open. The room was dimly lit by a single overhead light. And there, on the narrow bed, lay his daughter. Camila was unconscious, her face pale as death. Someone had dressed her in clean clothes, probably Lucia, but Raphael could see the bandages wrapped around her torso, already spotted with blood. Her blonde hair, so much like her mother's, was matted with sweat. Raphael's knees nearly gave out. He grabbed the doorframe to steady himself. "Camila," he whispered. Behind him, Lucia appeared in the doorway, breathing hard from running down the stairs. "I did everything I could. The wound isn't deep, but she lost a lot of blood. She needs a real doctor, Mr. Caldero. Someone you trust." Raphael moved to his daughter's side and took her hand. It was cold. He pressed 2 fingers against her wrist and felt the faint flutter of her pulse. What happened to her? He looked up at Lucia, and for the first time in 20 years, there were tears in Raphael Caldero's eyes. "Who did this?" Lucia took a shaky breath. "I found her 4 hours ago. I was walking back from the late-night market on Sheridan Road. I couldn't sleep, so I went to get groceries for tomorrow's breakfast. That's when I saw them." "Saw who?" 3 men. They had her in an alley behind the old movie theater. She was fighting them, Mr. Caldero. Fighting hard. But they had a knife, and they were dragging her toward a van. Raphael's blood turned to ice. "And I hit one of them with my car," Lucia said it matter-of-factly, as if she was describing a trip to the grocery store. "Drove right up onto the sidewalk and hit him. He went down hard. The other 2 pulled guns, but I already had Camilo in the back seat. I drove like hell and brought her here." Raphael stared at this small, quiet woman who'd served him breakfast for 2 years without ever raising her voice. She'd just confessed to vehicular assault and possibly manslaughter with the same tone someone might use to discuss the weather. "Why didn't you take her to a hospital?" "Because they knew who she was." Lucia's eyes met his. "Before I hit them, I heard what they said. They called her by name. They said, 'Caldero's daughter comes with us,' or 'she doesn't come at all.' This wasn't random, Mr. Caldero. Someone sent them for her." Raphael felt the old fury rising in his chest, the cold, calculated rage that had built his empire and destroyed his enemies. Someone had tried to take his daughter. Someone had hurt her, hunted her, stabbed her. Someone had made the last mistake of their life. He stood up and looked at Lucia. "Call Dr. Vasquez. Tell him to come immediately and to bring everything. Then wake up Marcus and have him assemble the security team in my office. No one leaves this property until I say so." "Yes, sir." As Lucia turned to go, Raphael called out, "Lucia."
She stopped.
"Thank you," he said quietly, "for protecting her." Lucia nodded once, then disappeared up the stairs. Raphael turned back to his daughter. He brushed a strand of hair from her forehead, his hand trembling. "I'm sorry, Mija," he whispered. "I'm so sorry. But I promise you, whoever did this won't live to see another sunrise." In the silence of the safe room, Camila's breathing remained shallow and steady. And somewhere in the darkness of Chicago, the people who'd tried to take her had no idea that they'd just started a war they could never win. Dr. Vasquez arrived within 30 minutes, a silver-haired man in his 60s who'd been patching up Raphael's people since the early days. He asked no questions, just opened his medical bag and got to work. Raphael stood in the corner of the safe room, arms crossed, watching as the doctor examined Camila's wound. Marcus, his head of security, stood beside him, a former Marine with a scar running down his left cheek. "It's a defensive wound," Dr. Vasquez said, peeling back the blood-soaked bandages. "She got cut trying to block the knife. The blade sliced across her ribs, but didn't penetrate deep. She's lucky."
"Lucky," Raphael repeated bitterly.
His daughter lying unconscious with a knife wound wasn't his definition of luck. She'll need stitches and antibiotics. The blood loss caused her to pass out, but she's stable. The doctor threaded a curved needle. She should wake up in a few hours. Raphael nodded curtly and stepped into the hallway where Lucia waited, still wearing her blood-stained uniform. She'd refused to change until she'd answered all his questions. "Tell me everything again," Raphael said. "Every detail." Lucia took a breath. "I was walking home from the market around 11 p.m. I take Sheridan Road because it's lit better at night. When I passed the old Parkway Theater, I heard shouting from the alley. A woman's voice. And you went toward it?" Marcus interrupted. "Most people run the other way." Lucia met his skeptical gaze. "I'm not most people." Raphael almost smiled. "Almost." "I saw 3 men," Lucia continued. 2 were holding Camila's arms. She was fighting, kicking, screaming. The 3rd man had a knife. He was telling her to shut up or he'd cut her pretty face. Raphael's jaw tightened. "That's when I heard them say her name. Caldero's daughter comes with us. One of them had an accent. Mexican, I think. He said something in Spanish about Los Lirios needing leverage." The name hit Raphael like cold water.
Los Lirios.
The Lily Cartel. They were a brutal organization operating out of the Southwest, known for human trafficking and drug smuggling. Raphael had never done business with them. His operations stayed in the Midwest. But 6 months ago, his men had stumbled onto something during a routine collection run. A warehouse full of people, locked in shipping containers. Men, women, and children being held for ransom or sale. Raphael had freed them all and burned the warehouse to the ground. He'd assumed it was a local operation, some small-time traffickers he'd crushed without a second thought. Apparently, he'd been wrong.
Los Lirios, Marcus Mater.
"That's a problem, boss." "It's more than a problem," Raphael said. "It's a declaration of war." Lucia shifted uncomfortably. "There's more. When I hit the first man with my car, he dropped a phone. I picked it up before I grabbed Camila." She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a cracked smartphone. "I thought you might want it." Raphael took the phone. "Smart girl." He handed it to Marcus. "Get our tech guy to crack this. I want to know everything. Who they called, who they texted, who they reported to." On it, Marcus disappeared up the stairs. Raphael turned back to Lucia. "You said you hit one of them. Did you kill him?" "I don't know. Maybe." "I didn't stop to check." Her voice wavered slightly, the first sign of emotion breaking through. "I just grabbed Camila and drove." "Did they follow you?" "I don't think so. I took back roads, checked my mirrors. I made sure I wasn't followed before coming here." Raphael studied her face. She was scared. He could see it in the tension around her eyes, but she was holding it together better than most trained soldiers would. "Why did you bring her here instead of calling the police?" Lucia looked at him like he'd asked why water was wet. "Because the police can't protect her from a cartel. You can." She wasn't wrong. Raphael walked back into the safe room. Dr. Vasquez was finishing the stitches, his hands steady despite his age. Camila's face had regained some color, her breathing stronger now. "She's going to be fine," the doctor said, packing his instruments. "Keep her hydrated when she wakes up. Change the bandages twice daily. If she develops a fever, call me immediately." "Thank you, doctor." After Vasquez left, Raphael pulled a chair beside Camila's bed. He hadn't been this close to her in 5 years. She looked so much like her mother, Maria, who died of cancer when Camila was 12. The same delicate features, the same stubborn set to her jaw even in sleep. Camila had blamed him for her mother's death. Not directly, but in the way that mattered. She'd said the stress of being married to a criminal had eaten Maria alive from the inside out. Maybe she'd been right. Raphael reached out and gently squeezed Camila's hand. "I'm sorry, baby girl," he whispered. "I'm sorry I wasn't there to protect you. I'm sorry for everything. But I'm here now, and I swear on your mother's grave, no one will hurt you again." Camila's fingers twitched. Her eyelids fluttered. "Camila?"
Raphael leaned closer.
"Can you hear me?" Her eyes opened slowly, unfocused and confused. She looked around the strange room, then her gaze landed on Raphael's face. For a moment, there was recognition, then fear. She tried to pull away, wincing at the pain in her side. "No, where am I?" "What?" "You're safe," Raphael said quickly. "You're my house. You were attacked. Do you remember?" Camilla's breathing quickened. Her eyes darted to the door, looking for escape. Then her face crumpled as memory returned. "They tried to take me. They said your name. They wanted." "I know. Lucia told me everything." "Lucia?" Camilla looked confused. "Who's Lucia?" "The woman who saved your life." Camilla closed her eyes, tears leaking from the corners. "I didn't want to come here. I didn't want to drag you into my life again. They dragged me into this when they touched you." Raphael's voice was steel. "This isn't your fault, Camilla. It's mine. But I'm going to fix it." Camilla opened her eyes again, and this time he saw something beyond fear. Recognition of the man he was. The man she'd run from. "Los Lirios," she whispered. "They said Los Lirios sent them. They said." She struggled to remember through the pain and fog. "They said they wanted leverage."
Over you.
"They wanted to make you." Her eyes widened. "Dad, they're going to kill me if you don't give them what they want." Raphael's expression didn't change, but inside, the fury crystallized into something cold and deadly. "No," he said quietly. "They're not. Because I'm going to kill them first." Dawn broke over Lake Forest with golden light streaming through the basement window. Raphael hadn't moved from Camilla's bedside. His eyes were bloodshot, his jaw rough with stubble, but sleep was impossible. Marcus had returned an hour ago with preliminary findings from the phone. The tech team was still working on encrypted messages, but they'd found photos, surveillance shots of Camilla leaving her apartment, walking to work at the nonprofit where she volunteered, sitting in coffee shops. The cartel had been watching her for weeks. Raphael had built his empire on control, on knowing everything before it happened. Yet someone had stalked his daughter right under his nose, and he'd known nothing. The failure burned worse than any bullet wound. Camilla stirred around 6 a.m. Her eyes opened slowly, less panicked than before. The pain medication Dr. Vasquez had administered was working. "Dad." Her voice was hoarse. Raphael leaned forward, careful not to crowd her. "I'm here." She looked at him for a long moment, and he couldn't read her expression.
Anger?
Resentment? Fear? Maybe all three. "How long have I been out?" "About 6 hours since you woke up the first time. You've been drifting in and out." He poured water from a pitcher into a glass. "The doctor said you need to stay hydrated." Camilla accepted the water with shaking hands. She drank deeply, then winced as the movement pulled at her stitches. "It hurts." "I know. I can get you more medication." "No." She set the glass down. "I need to think clearly. I need to tell you." She stopped, her face going pale. "Oh, God."
Sarah.
"They might go after Sarah." "Who's Sarah?" "My roommate. We share an apartment in Wicker Park. If they were watching me, they know about her." "Dad, you have to." "Already done." Raphael pulled out his phone and showed her a photo Marcus had sent 20 minutes ago. A young woman with red hair sleeping peacefully in a guest room upstairs. "We brought her here 3 hours ago. She thinks there was a gas leak in your building, and we're putting you both up until it's fixed." Camilla exhaled with relief, then looked at him with something close to surprise. "You thought of that?" "I thought of everything. It came out harsher than he intended. I won't let them hurt anyone else because of me." "This isn't because of you," Camilla said quietly. "It's because of them."
Los Lirios.
"They're monsters, Dad. Real monsters." Raphael pulled his chair closer. "Tell me what you know about them." Camilla's fingers twisted in the blanket. 6 months ago, you shut down a trafficking operation. You freed about 40 people. I remember. One of those people was a girl named Rosa. She was 16, kidnapped from Juarez and brought here in a shipping container. Camilla's eyes met his. "She ended up at the shelter where I volunteer. We helped her get immigration services, therapy, A safe place to stay. Raphael felt something cold settle in his chest. You knew? You knew I was involved. I saw your men that night. I was doing overnight intake at the shelter when Rosa arrived. She was terrified, traumatized. But she told us everything. About the warehouse, about the man in the expensive suit who kicked down the doors and set everyone free. Camila's voice cracked. She described you perfectly. The scar above your eyebrow. The way you spoke Spanish with a Cuban accent. It was you. Raphael sat back, stunned. Why didn't you reach out? Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know what to think. Tears welled in her eyes. You're a criminal. You hurt people. But that night, you saved 40 lives. How am I supposed to reconcile that? Before Raphael could answer, Camila continued, her voice urgent now. Rosa told us about Los Lirios. They're not just traffickers, they're a cartel that specializes in human cargo. Moving people across borders for labor, for exploitation, for ransom. You didn't just free their victims. You destroyed their entire Midwest operation. Good, Raphael said coldly. No, not good. Because Los Lirios doesn't forgive debts. Rosa said they calculate the value of every person they lose. 40 people at an average of $20,000 each. That's $800,000 you cost them, not counting their infrastructure and connections. Raphael's jaw tightened. So this is about money. It's about power, Camila corrected. They want their reputation back. They want everyone to know that you can't cross Los Lirios without consequences. She grabbed his hand, her grip surprisingly strong. The men who took me, they weren't trying to kill me. They said they were taking me somewhere. They said I'd be their guest until you paid what you owe. I don't owe them anything. They think you do. They want you to surrender your smuggling routes through the Great Lakes. They want access to your distribution network. And they want, she paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. They want you to personally deliver $5 million in cash as restitution. Raphael almost laughed. That's insane. That's leverage. Camila's face was serious. Dad, they know you. They know how you operate. They know you'd never negotiate while they had me. So they were going to take me, hold me somewhere you couldn't find me, and bleed your organization dry. They were going to break you slowly. They failed. This time Camila's grip tightened. But they'll try again. They have resources, connections, sicarios who'll do anything for money. You freed those people, and I'm proud of you for that. But you also made an enemy that doesn't forget. Raphael stood up and paced the small room. Everything Camila said made sense. Los Lirios was known for being ruthless, but strategic. They didn't start wars they couldn't win, which meant they thought they could win this one. There's something else, Camila said. Her voice had changed, harder now, more certain. When they grabbed me, one of them made a phone call. I heard him say, "We have her," in Spanish. And then he said a name. Victor Reyes. The name meant nothing to Raphael. Who's that? I don't know. But the way he said it, like he was reporting to a superior. Victor Reyes might be running their operation here. Raphael filed the name away. Marcus would track it down.
Dad.
Camila's voice was small now, vulnerable.
I'm scared.
Raphael returned to her side and took both her hands in his. I know, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Camila looked at him, really looked at him for the first time in 5 years. She saw the gray in his hair, the new lines around his eyes, the weight of his empire pressing down on his shoulders. I don't trust your world, she said finally. But I trust you to protect me. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was enough. Then sleep, Raphael said gently. Rest and heal. Because when you're strong enough, I'm going to need you to tell me everything you know about Los Lirios. Every detail, Rosa shared. Every word you remember. Why? Raphael's expression went cold. Because I'm going to dismantle them piece by piece. And then I'm going to make sure they never threaten my family again. Camila's eyes drifted closed, exhaustion pulling her back under. But just before sleep claimed her, she whispered, Be careful, Dad. They're not like your usual enemies. Raphael kissed her forehead. Neither am I. As he left the safe room, Marcus was waiting in the hallway with a tablet. Boss, we've got a problem. What now? Marcus turned the screen to show him. It was a photo taken from one of Raphael's downtown properties, a nightclub in River North. Spray-painted across the front entrance in blood-red letters were 3 words. "We want payment." And beneath it, the symbol of Los Lirios, a stylized lily dripping red. The cartel had just made their move public. The morning sun felt too bright, too cheerful for the war brewing in Raphael's mind. He stood in the garden shed behind the estate, a weathered wooden structure where the groundskeeper stored tools and fertilizer. It was one of the few places on the property without security cameras. Privacy was what he needed right now. Lucia sat on an overturned bucket, her hands folded in her lap. She'd finally changed out of her blood-stained uniform into jeans and a simple blue sweater. Her dark hair hung loose around her shoulders, making her look younger than her 28 years. "You wanted to see me, Mr. Caldero?" Raphael leaned against the workbench, arms crossed. Outside, birds sang in the oak trees. Inside, silence stretched between them like a blade. "I've been thinking about last night," Raphael said finally. "About the choices you made." Lucia tensed. "I told you everything. You told me what happened. But you didn't tell me why." Raphael's eyes narrowed. "You're a housekeeper. You make beds and cook meals. Last night, you committed vehicular assault, possibly manslaughter, kidnapped my daughter from a crime scene, performed emergency medical care, and brought her to a secondary location without calling the authorities. That's not normal civilian behavior, Lucia." She said nothing, but her jaw tightened. "So, I had Marcus run a deeper background check on you. The one we should have run 2 years ago before hiring you." Raphael pulled out a folded paper from his jacket. "Lucia Maria Martinez. Born in El Paso, Texas. Nursing degree from UT Austin. Worked at Children's Memorial Hospital in Chicago for 3 years before suddenly quitting and taking a job as a housekeeper making a quarter of your previous salary." Lucia's face remained neutral, but her knuckles went white. "That's a strange career change," Raphael continued. "Unless you were running from something. Or hiding from someone." "I wasn't running." Her voice was quiet but firm. "Then why?" Lucia stood up and walked to the small window, looking out at the manicured lawn. For a long moment, she didn't speak. When she finally did, her voice carried the weight of old pain. "I knew Camila before last night." Raphael went very still. "What?" "Not recently. It was 7 years ago. I was doing volunteer work at St. Catherine's Home for Children. It's an orphanage on the west side." Lucia turned to face him. "Camila volunteered there too. She was 16, and I was 21. We worked together every Saturday for almost a year." Raphael's mind raced. 7 years ago, Camila had been in high school, angry and rebellious after her mother's death. She'd thrown herself into volunteer work, claiming she wanted to help people who actually needed it, a constant barb aimed at her father's criminal wealth. "She never mentioned you," Raphael said. "She wouldn't have. I used my middle name back then, Maria. And I looked different." Lucia touched her hair. "Blonde, short hair, glasses. I was trying to forget who I used to be."
Why?
Lucia's expression hardened. "Because 3 months before I started at St. Catherine's, I watched a cartel execution. Wrong place, wrong time. They killed a man right in front of me at a gas station in El Paso. Shot him in the head and drove away. I was a witness." Raphael understood immediately. "So you ran." "I changed my appearance, moved to Chicago, took a nothing job where no one would look for me. I thought I was being paranoid. But you don't forget seeing something like that. You don't forget the way they looked at you before they left, like they were deciding whether to kill you too." "And Camila?" Lucia's face softened. "She was special. Even at 16, she had this fire in her, this determination to make the world better despite everything she'd been through. She told me about her mother dying, about her father being in business. She never said what kind of business, but I could guess." Raphael felt an unexpected ache in his chest. "We became friends," Lucia continued. Not just volunteers working together. Real friends. She was the first person in Chicago who made me feel like maybe I could have a normal life again. Like maybe I could stop looking over my shoulder. What happened? She stopped coming. One day, she just didn't show up. Asked the coordinator, and she said Camila had aged out of the program and moved on. I tried to find her, but she deleted her social media, changed her number. I figured she was trying to separate herself from her father's world. I understood that. So I let her go. Lucia's eyes met Raphael's. When I saw those men dragging her into that alley, when I heard them say her name, I didn't think. I just acted. Because even after 7 years, even though she probably doesn't remember me, she's still the person who showed me kindness when I needed it most. Raphael processed this information. The coincidence seemed impossible, yet Lucia's story had the ring of truth. And it explained everything, why she'd risked her life, why she'd known to bring Camila here instead of a hospital, why she'd been so protective. Does Camila remember you? He asked. I don't think so. I look completely different now. And I never told her my real name was Lucia. To her, I was just Maria, the nursing student who liked working with kids. Raphael walked to the window and stood beside her. In the distance, he could see Marcus coordinating with a security team, preparing for whatever came next. You saved my daughter's life, Raphael said quietly. Not just from the cartel. You probably saved her from bleeding out in that alley. Your medical training, that's why she's alive. I did what anyone would do. No, Raphael turned to look at her. You did what very few people would do. You put yourself between my daughter and 3 armed men. You could have called the police. You could have driven away and pretended you never saw anything. But you didn't. Lucia met his gaze. She's a good person, Mr. Caldero. One of the few I've ever met who genuinely cares about people. She didn't deserve what happened to her. No one deserves that, Raphael said. But you're right. Camila is good. Better than me. Better than this whole damn world I built. He pulled out his phone and showed Lucia a photo. Camila sleeping peacefully in a safe room, her face no longer pale, her breathing steady. She asked about you this morning, Raphael said. She wanted to know who saved her. She wanted to thank you. Lucia's eyes glistened. I'd like that. Then you'll tell her the truth? About St. Catherine's? About Maria? Lucia hesitated. I don't know if that's a good idea. It was so long ago. She remembered you, Raphael interrupted. When I described you, she got this look on her face, like she was trying to place something familiar. She said, there was a volunteer I knew once. Maria. She taught me how to change bandages. That was you, wasn't it? Lucia nodded, unable to speak. Raphael made a decision. From this moment forward, you're not just my housekeeper. You're part of Camila's security detail. You'll stay close to her, protect her, help her recover. And when she's strong enough, you'll tell her who you really are. Mr. Caldero, I'm not a bodyguard. I'm not trained for her. You drove a car into an armed man to save her life. That's all the training I need to see. Raphael's voice was firm. But understand this, Lucia. If you stay, you're in this war now. Los Lirios will come again. And next time, they'll come harder. Are you prepared for that? Lucia thought of 16-year-old Camila teaching orphans how to read. She thought of the kindness in her eyes, the way she'd made Lucia feel human again during the darkest period of her life. Yes, Lucia said. I'm prepared. Raphael extended his hand. Then welcome to the family. As they shook hands, neither of them noticed the figure watching from the trees beyond the garden, a man with a telephoto lens, capturing every moment. Los Lirios was watching, and they were learning. By noon, Chicago knew something was happening. Raphael's driver brought him downtown to assess the damage personally. Marcus rode shotgun, his hand never far from the weapon concealed under his jacket. 2 SUVs filled with armed men followed at a discreet distance. The nightclub in River North wasn't the only target. As they drove through the city, Raphael saw his empire being marked like a dog marking territory. His restaurant in Lincoln Park, the one that laundered money through its books, had the same blood-red graffiti. "We want payment." The lily symbol dripped down the brick like fresh blood. His construction company's office in the Loop, 3 stories of legitimate business covering illegitimate deals, spray-painted across every window. The shipping warehouse near the docks where his operations received special cargo, the entire side of the building transformed into a canvas of threats. They hit 7 properties, Marcus reported, scrolling through messages on his phone. All between 3 and 5 a.m. Security cameras at each location were spray-painted over first. Professional work. Raphael stared out the window at his nightclub. Police had already cordoned off the area with yellow tape. A news van was setting up across the street. This was exactly what Los Lirios wanted: public humiliation, a visible challenge to Raphael's control. "Any casualties?" Raphael asked.
No.
They avoided confrontation entirely, just left their message and disappeared. Smart. Los Lirios wasn't trying to start a shooting war in the streets. They were applying pressure, forcing Raphael to respond while the whole city watched. Raphael's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. He opened it. A photograph appeared on screen, Camila in the safe room, taken through the basement window. The angle was from outside the estate, somewhere in the trees. She was sleeping peacefully, unaware she was being watched. Below the photo, a message in Spanish. "Walls don't stop us. Pay what you owe, or we take what's ours." Raphael's blood turned to ice. They'd been on his property. They'd photographed his daughter while she slept in what should have been the safest place in Chicago. He showed the phone to Marcus.
Jesus Marcus Briated.
"They're inside our perimeter." "When?" "Has to be this morning." "That's her new bandage, the one Dr. Vasquez applied at dawn." Marcus was already making calls. "I'm pulling up all security footage from the last 6 hours. We'll find them." But Raphael knew they wouldn't. Los Lirios had already proven they could move through his security like ghosts. They parked a block from the nightclub and walked the rest of the way. Despite the police presence, Raphael's people had cordoned off a separate perimeter. His people didn't talk to cops, and the cops knew better than to ask too many questions about Rafael Caldero's business. Tony Greco, his operations manager for the North Side, met him at the entrance. He was a thick-necked man in his 40s with a permanent scowl. "Boss, I'm sorry. This happened on my watch. I take full responsibility." "Save it." Raphael examined the graffiti up close. The paint was still slightly tacky. "Tell me about the cameras."
Dead.
"All of them." They knew exactly where each one was positioned and hit them first. "Whoever planned this had detailed knowledge of our security setup." That was the second time someone had mentioned inside knowledge. First Mateo's name on the kidnapper's phone. Now this. Raphael was beginning to suspect the cartel had more than just surveillance on their side. "Get me a list of everyone who has access to security protocols," Raphael ordered. "Everyone who knows camera placements, shift changes, blind spots. I want it within the hour." "Yes, sir." Raphael walked down the block, taking in the scene. Pedestrians stared. Some took photos with their phones. By tonight, this would be all over social media, all over the news. Mafia boss under attack. Rafael Caldero losing control.
His phone rang.
An unlisted number. He answered. Rafael Caldero, the voice was smooth, speaking English with a Mexican accent. "We finally meet, even if only by voice." Rafael's hand tightened on the phone. "Who is this?" "You can call me Victor. Victor Reyes. I believe your daughter mentioned my name." The man from the phone call. The one giving orders during Camila's kidnapping. "What do you want?" Rafael kept his voice neutral, but his heart was pounding. "I want what you took from us. 800,000 in lost revenue. Another 4 million in damaged infrastructure and lost connections. Plus interest for the insult." Victor's voice remained pleasant, almost friendly. "Call it 5 million even. Small price for a man of your wealth. You tried to kidnap my daughter. A business tactic. Leverage, as I'm sure you understand. Nothing personal. You put a knife in her. She resisted. These things happen, Victor sighed, as if discussing a minor inconvenience. But here's the good news, Raphael. I'm a reasonable man. Pay what you owe, surrender your lake routes, and this all ends peacefully. Your daughter goes back to her little nonprofit. You go back to your business. Los Lirios expands north. Everyone wins. Raphael watched a police officer directing traffic around the crime scene tape. Civilians going about their normal day, completely unaware of the war brewing beneath the surface. And if I refuse? Raphael asked. Then we continue applying pressure. More graffiti. More messages. Maybe next time we take someone else you care about. That pretty little maid who saved your daughter, Lucia, isn't it? Or perhaps your daughter's roommate, Sarah. Sweet girl. Red hair. Lives on the 4th floor. Raphael's jaw clenched. They knew everything. We're watching you, Raphael. Every move. Every property. Every person you care about. Victor's voice hardened. You have 48 hours to deliver the money and sign over your routes. After that, the price goes up. And trust me, you don't want to know what we start taking as collateral. I'm going to kill you, Raphael said quietly. You understand that, right? I'm going to find you, and I'm going to kill everyone who works for you. Victor laughed. Many have tried. All have failed. 48 hours, Raphael. We'll be in touch with delivery instructions. The line went dead. Raphael stood on the sidewalk, surrounded by the evidence of his vulnerability, holding a phone that contained threats against everyone he loved. For the first time in 20 years, he felt something close to fear. Not for himself. Never for himself. But for Camila, sleeping in a room that wasn't as safe as he'd promised. For Lucia, who'd risked everything to save his daughter. For Sarah, an innocent who'd done nothing except live with the wrong roommate. Marcus appeared at his elbow. Boss, you okay? Raphael looked at the graffiti one more time. We want payment. The lily dripping red. Get everyone to the estate, Raphael ordered. Every soldier, every associate, every person on our payroll who knows how to hold a weapon. I want a war council in 2 hours. We're going to hit back. We're going to do more than hit back. Raphael's eyes were cold as winter. We're going to show Los Lirios what happens when you threaten a caldero. We're going to burn them to the ground. As they walked back to the car, Raphael's phone buzzed again. Another message from Victor Reyes. A photo of Lucia in the garden shed, talking with Raphael that morning. Someone had been watching even then. Below it, tick-tock. The war had officially begun. Raphael's office was designed to intimidate. Dark mahogany walls, leather furniture, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the estate grounds. A massive desk sat in the center like a throne, and behind it hung a painting of a Cuban landscape, the country his grandfather had fled 60 years ago. 20 men filled the room. His most trusted soldiers, lieutenants, and advisors. Marcus stood by the door, arms crossed. Tony Greco leaned against the window. Others sat in chairs or stood in corners, all waiting for orders. Raphael stood behind his desk, hands pressed flat against the wood. He'd showered and changed into a fresh suit, but exhaustion lined his face. He hadn't slept in over 30 hours. Los Lirios has declared war, Raphael began, his voice carrying through the silent room. They've marked our properties, threatened our people, and put a price on our operations. They think we're vulnerable. They think fear will make us comply. He looked each man in the eye. They're wrong. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. We have 48 hours before their deadline. In that time, I want every resource, every contact, every piece of intelligence we have focused on one goal, finding Victor Reyes and destroying Los Lirios' operation in Chicago.
No merci. No negotiations.
We end this permanently. Boss, Tony spoke up. Los Lirios has reach. They've got people in Mexico, Texas, Arizona. If we hit them here, they'll send reinforcements. This could turn into a long war. Then we make it a short one, Raphael shot back. We hit them so hard, so fast, they don't have time to call for help. We find their safe houses, their stash locations, their distribution points. We burn it all. Marcus stepped forward. I've got contacts in the DEA who owe us favors. They might have intel on Los Lirios operations. Use them, Raphael ordered. I want names, addresses, phone numbers. Everything. The door to the office opened. Every man in the room turned, hands moving toward weapons. Lucia stood in the doorway, wearing jeans and a black sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked small among all these dangerous men, but her eyes were steady. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said quietly, but I need to speak with Mr. Caldero. It's important. Raphael's expression hardened. Lucia, this isn't a good time. I know where they're hiding. The room went silent. Raphael stared at her. What did you say? Lucia stepped inside, closing the door behind her. 20 pairs of eyes tracked her movement. She was the only woman in a room full of killers, but she didn't flinch. The men who took Camila, she said. After I hit one of them with my car, the other two dragged him into the van and drove off. I followed them. You followed them? Marcus sounded incredulous. You didn't mention that before. Because I lost them after 6 blocks. But I saw which direction they headed, west, toward Garfield Park. And I saw the van. It was a white Ford Transit with a damaged rear bumper and a magnetic sign for Lopez Plumbing Services. Tony straightened up. That's specific. I'm good with details, Lucia said simply. She turned to Raphael. I know you're planning to strike back. I want to help. Raphael walked around the desk. Lucia, I appreciate what you've done. But this is different. This is a war. You're not trained for. I know about Los Lirios, she interrupted. Her voice was firm now, commanding. I told you I witnessed a cartel execution in El Paso. What I didn't tell you was which cartel.
It was them. Los Lirios.
The room went very quiet. Lucia continued, her words coming faster now. The man they killed was a nurse at the hospital where I worked. His name was Eduardo Ruiz. He'd been treating cartel members, patching up gunshot wounds, no questions asked. But he started asking for more money. They saw it as extortion. So they made an example of him. She met Raphael's eyes. I was getting gas across the street when it happened. I saw their faces. I saw their methods. And for 3 months after, I studied everything I could find about Los Lirios because I was terrified they'd come for me too. Raphael leaned back against his desk. What did you learn? They're structured differently than other cartels. More cellular. Small independent teams that operate with minimal communication. It makes them harder to infiltrate but also harder to coordinate. Each cell has a local handler who reports up the chain. She pointed at Raphael's laptop. May I? Raphael nodded to Marcus, who opened the computer and turned it toward her. Lucia typed quickly, pulling up a map of Chicago. Los Lirios operates safe houses in low-income neighborhoods where they blend in. Based on the direction those men drove and the neighborhood demographics, I'd narrow it down to 3 locations. She marked spots on the map. Here, here, and here. All within Garfield Park. All in areas with high rental turnover where they could set up without drawing attention. The men in the room exchanged glances. This wasn't information from a scared housekeeper. This was intelligence-level analysis. How do you know all this? Tony asked suspiciously. Because I spent 6 months researching them while I was hiding. I learned their patterns, their tactics, their territories. I learned how to disappear from them. Lucia's voice was bitter. And I've been watching the news about cartel activity in Chicago ever since I moved here. When I saw those men with Camila, I recognized their method immediately. The way they worked in threes. The way they used a legitimate-looking vehicle. The efficiency. It was Los Lirios. Raphael studied her carefully. Why didn't you tell me this yesterday? Because yesterday you didn't trust me enough to listen. You thought I was just a maid who got lucky. Lucia's expression was fierce now. But I'm not lucky, Mr. Caldero. I'm smart, I'm observant, and I know your enemy better than anyone in this room. Marcus scoffed. That's a bold claim. Test me. Lucia crossed her arms. Ask me anything about Los Lirios. Their structure, their methods, their leadership. I spent months studying them like my life depended on it. Because it did. Raphael considered. Victor Reyes. Who is he? Regional Commander. Lucia answered immediately. He handles all operations north of Texas. Smart, ruthless, and patient. He doesn't make moves unless he's sure of the outcome. The fact that he contacted you directly means he's confident he has the upper hand. How would he have gained intelligence on my operations? He either turned someone inside your organization, or he's been running surveillance for months. Probably both. Lucia pointed at the map again. If I had to guess, his command center is somewhere in here. She circled an area near Douglas Park. Close enough to coordinate, but far enough from the safe houses to avoid direct connection if one gets raided. Raphael felt a grudging respect forming. And if we hit one of these safe houses, you'll find low-level sicarios, maybe some weapons and drugs. But not Victor. He's too careful for that. Lucia leaned against the desk. But you'll find evidence. Phones, documents, maybe a laptop. Los Lirios keeps meticulous records because they run their operation like a business. Hit a safe house, and you'll get the thread that leads to Victor. The room was silent for a long moment. Finally, Raphael spoke. Gentlemen, give us the room. The men filed out slowly, some casting suspicious looks at Lucia. Marcus was the last to leave. You sure about this, boss? He asked quietly. I'll call you in 5 minutes, Raphael replied. When the door closed, Raphael turned to Lucia. Why are you really doing this? I told you. Camila. No, Raphael cut her off. Saving Camila in the alley was instinct. Following the van was bravery. But walking into a room full of dangerous men and offering to help hunt a cartel? That's something else. That's revenge. Lucia's mask cracked slightly. Her hands trembled before she clenched them into fists. Eduardo Ruiz, she whispered. The nurse they killed. He was my mentor. He taught me everything about emergency medicine. He was kind and funny and good. Tears welled in her eyes. And they shot him in the head like he was nothing. I watched him die, and I couldn't do anything except run and hide. So this is personal. Yes, Lucia wiped her eyes angrily. I've been running for 7 years. Hiding. Looking over my shoulder. And now they're here, in this city, hurting people I care about. I'm done running, Mr. Caldero. I want to fight back. Raphael saw the fire in her eyes, the same fire he'd seen in young soldiers who'd lost everything and had nothing left to lose. If you do this, he said quietly, there's no going back. You'll have blood on your hands. You'll be part of this world. I've been part of this world since the day they killed Eduardo. I just didn't admit it until now. Raphael made his decision. He extended his hand. Then welcome to the War Council, Lucia Martinez. She shook his hand firmly. Now, Raphael said, show me exactly where we're going to hit them. The abandoned ice factory in Garfield Park had been closed for 15 years. Broken windows stared out like hollow eyes, and graffiti covered every surface. It was the kind of place decent people avoided after dark. Perfect for a cartel safe house. Raphael crouched behind a rusted delivery truck 50 yards from the building's entrance. Beside him, Marcus checked his weapon, a Glock 19 with a suppressor. 6 more men were positioned around the perimeter, invisible in the darkness. Lucia stood behind Raphael, wearing a black jacket and tactical vest that Marcus had given her. She'd insisted on coming, and after an hour of argument, Raphael had reluctantly agreed. But she was staying outside the building, protected by 2 of his best soldiers. 2 guards at the entrance, Marcus whispered, lowering his binoculars. Looks like 3, maybe 4 more inside based on the shadows moving past the windows. Lights on in the back section, probably where they're operating from. Raphael checked his watch. 11:47 p.m. The rest of the city was winding down, but this was when predators came alive. Lucia, Raphael said quietly, last chance to stay in the car. I'm fine here, she replied, though her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the binoculars Marcus had given her. Raphael signaled to his team. Two men moved silently through the shadows toward the entrance guards. The element of surprise was everything. 30 seconds later, both guards dropped without a sound. Tranquilizer darts, not bullets. Raphael wanted prisoners who could talk. Marcus led the breached team through the front entrance. Raphael followed close behind, his pistol raised. The interior smelled of mildew and old machinery. Moonlight filtered through broken skylights, creating strange patterns on the concrete floor. They moved through the main factory floor toward the lit section in the back. Voices echoed ahead, speaking Spanish, laughing. Careless. They felt safe here. That was their first mistake. Raphael's team hit them fast. The door burst open and 4 men inside scrambled for weapons. But Raphael's people were faster. Within seconds, 3 cartel members were on the ground with guns to their heads. The 4th tried to run and was tackled before he reached the back exit. Clear? Marcus shouted. Raphael entered what had once been the factory's office space. The cartel had converted it into a functional headquarters, folding tables covered with laptops, burner phones, stacks of cash, and packages of white powder. Maps of Chicago covered the walls, marked with locations Raphael recognized as his own properties. "Boss, you need to see this," one of his men called out. Raphael walked to the main table where a laptop sat open. The screen showed a spreadsheet, detailed records of shipments, dates, locations, and amounts. But what caught Raphael's attention was the column labeled Source. Every entry had a name beside it. Most were abbreviations or code names. But one name appeared repeatedly, in plain English. Mateo. Raphael's blood ran cold.
Mateo Rivera.
His lieutenant. The man who'd worked for him for 8 years. The man he'd trusted with sensitive operations and strategic planning. Marcus saw it too.
Jesus Christ.
Mateo's been feeding them everything. Raphael's mind raced through the implications. Every security protocol, every shipment route, every vulnerable moment. Mateo had access to all of it. When was the last entry?
Rafael demanded.
Marcus scrolled through the file. Yesterday, 2 p.m. He reported that Camila was at your estate and gave them the security layout of the safe room. So that's how they'd gotten the photograph. That's how they'd known exactly where to watch. Raphael felt rage building in his chest, hot and consuming. But he forced it down. Emotion was a luxury he couldn't afford right now. Bag everything, he ordered. Laptops, phones, documents, all of it. I want our tech people going through every byte of data. His men moved quickly, stuffing evidence into duffel bags. One of the captured cartel members, a young guy with a neck tattoo, spat blood and glared at Raphael. You're dead, old man. Victor's going to bury you. Raphael crouched down to his eye level. Where is Victor Reyes? The young man laughed. Like I tell you. You will. Raphael's voice was calm, almost gentle. Because if you don't, I'll let Marcus work on you. And Marcus used to teach interrogation techniques to the Marines. You'll tell us everything before he's finished. Or, Raphael paused, you can tell me now, and I'll let you walk out of here alive. The young man's bravado faltered slightly. Where is Victor?
Rafael repeated.
I don't know, man. I swear. We get orders through encrypted messages. We never meet him face to face. Where do the messages come from? Different locations every time. He moves around. The young man glanced nervously at Marcus. But there's a drop house. Near Douglas Park. That's where we take our reports and pick up supplies. Address. 3847, West Polk Street. Gray building, broken gate. Raphael stood up. Marcus, verify that address. If he's lying, bring him back to the estate for questioning. You said you'd let me go, the young man protested. I said if you told me the truth, I'd let you live. I didn't say anything about letting you go, Raphael signaled to his men. Zip tie all of them. We're taking them with us. As his team secured the prisoners, Raphael walked back outside where Lucia waited. She lowered the binoculars when she saw him approach. Did you find anything? She asked. More than I wanted to. Raphael's expression was grim. You were right about the evidence. But it's worse than I thought. I have a traitor in my organization. Lucia's eyes widened.
Who? Mateo Rivera.
My lieutenant. Are you certain? Rafael showed her a photo he'd taken of the laptop screen, the spreadsheet with Mateo's name repeated dozens of times. Lucia studied it carefully. This is detailed. Dates, locations, specific intelligence. He's been feeding them information for months, which means every move we make, they'll know about unless we cut him off. Rafael's jaw tightened. I need to handle this personally. Where is he now? According to Marcus, he's at the docks, overseeing a shipment that's supposed to arrive at midnight. Rafael checked his watch. Which means I have 12 minutes to get there. I'm coming with you, Lucia said.
No.
This is going to get violent. I need to see this, Lucia insisted. I need to understand how deep this goes. If Mateo's been working with Los Lirios, he might know about Victor's location. He might know things that weren't in those files. Rafael wanted to argue, but he saw the determination in her eyes. She wasn't going to back down.
Fine.
But you stay in the car with the guard. No arguments. Lucia nodded. 20 minutes later, they arrived at the harbor docks. The Chicago skyline glittered across the water, beautiful and indifferent to the violence about to unfold. Mateo stood near a warehouse entrance, checking his phone. He was a compact man in his 40s with graying hair and a leather jacket. He looked up as Rafael's SUV approached, a smile forming on his face.
Boss.
Right on time. The shipment just cleared customs. He stopped mid-sentence when he saw Rafael's expression. Rafael stepped out of the vehicle. Marcus and 4 armed men flanked him. Mateo, Rafael said quietly. We need to talk. Mateo's smile vanished. His hand moved toward his waist, but Marcus was faster, pressing a gun against his spine. Don't, Marcus warned. Mateo's face went pale. Boss, I don't know what you think. I think you've been selling information to Los Lirios, Rafael interrupted. I think you've been betraying me for months. And I think you helped them target my daughter. That's insane. I would never. Rafael pulled out his phone and showed him the spreadsheet photo. Explain this. Mateo stared at the screen. For a moment he said nothing. Then his shoulders slumped in defeat. How much did they pay you? Rafael asked. 50,000. Plus a percentage of their Chicago operations once they took over your territory. Mateo's voice was bitter. You don't understand, Rafael. Los Lirios is bigger than you. Stronger. They're the future. I was just making sure I'd still have a place when they won. They're not going to win, Rafael said coldly. Yes, they will. Victor has connections you can't imagine. Resources you can't match. He's been planning this for a year. Mateo looked up, defiant now. You're finished, Rafael. You just don't know it yet. Rafael felt the rage threatening to break through his control. This man had put Camila in danger. Had betrayed 8 years of loyalty for money. Where is Victor Reyes?
Rafael demanded.
I don't know. He never told me. You're lying. I'm not. He compartmentalizes everything. I only dealt with his intermediary, a guy named. The crack of a sniper rifle split the night air. Mateo's head snapped back, and he crumpled to the ground. Blood pooled beneath him on the concrete. Everyone dove for cover. Rafael hit the ground behind the SUV, his weapon drawn. Marcus was scanning the waterfront for the shooter. There, one of the soldiers shouted, pointing at a warehouse rooftop 300 yards away. But by the time they looked, the sniper was gone. Rafael stared at Mateo's body. Los Lirios had just eliminated their own informant, which meant they knew Rafael had discovered the betrayal, which meant they were always watching. From inside the SUV, Lucia's face was pressed against the window, her eyes wide with shock. The war had just gotten much more complicated. The sniper shot had changed everything. Rafael remained crouched behind the SUV, his mind racing through tactical options. Mateo's body lay 15 feet away, blood spreading across the concrete in the moonlight. The warehouse district was eerily silent. No sirens, no witnesses, Just the lap of water against the docks. How many shooters? Raphael called to Marcus. At least one confirmed.
Could be more.
The shot came from the north warehouse, but I can't get a visual. Marcus was pressed against a shipping container, his weapon trained on the rooftops.
We're exposed here, boss.
We need to move.
Rafael calculati distances.
30 yards to the nearest warehouse. 20 yards to the water. 50 yards back to the access road, where more vehicles were parked. Fall back too. Another shot rang out. The SUV's rear window exploded in a shower of glass. Lucia screamed inside the vehicle. Stay down.
Rafael shouted.
A third shot hit the concrete inches from Marcus's position. Then a fourth, targeting one of Raphael's soldiers near the warehouse entrance. Multiple shooters. Marcus yelled. North and east positions. This wasn't a sniper protecting their asset. This was an ambush. Los Lirios had been waiting for them. Raphael's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You should have paid. Victor Reyes. The bastard had used Mateo as bait. He'd known Raphael would discover the betrayal and confront his lieutenant. And he'd positioned snipers to catch them in the open. We need cover now, one of Raphael's men shouted. Raphael looked at the tactical situation. They were pinned between the water and two sniper positions. The SUVs provided minimal cover. If they tried to run, they'd be picked off one by one. Unless they created a distraction. Marcus. Suppressing fire on the north position. Raphael ordered. Everyone else, lay down cover and move toward the warehouse entrance. Go. His men opened fire on the rooftops. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness as bullets pinged off metal and concrete. The snipers returned fire, but the barrage forced them to take cover. Raphael yanked open the SUV door. Lucia, we're moving. Stay behind me. She scrambled out, keeping low. Her face was pale but determined. Raphael grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the warehouse, using his body to shield her. They'd covered half the distance when a bullet struck the ground between Raphael's feet. He stumbled, momentum carrying him forward. Lucia caught his arm, keeping him upright. Keep moving. Marcus was firing controlled bursts, covering their retreat. They reached the warehouse entrance. Raphael's soldiers took defensive positions around the doorway. Two men were bleeding, one from a shoulder wound, another from a grazed leg, but everyone was alive. Status.
Rafael demanded.
2 snipers confirmed, Marcus reported, slamming a fresh magazine into his weapon. Maybe a third on the west side. They've got us triangulated. Smart positioning. Raphael peered around the doorframe. The docks stretched out before them, bathed in industrial lighting. Mateo's body lay in the kill zone, a grim reminder of their vulnerability. Movement caught Raphael's eye, shadows near the shipping containers. Not snipers. Ground troops. We've got incoming, he shouted. 6 men emerged from cover, moving in tactical formation. They wore dark clothing and carried assault rifles. Professional. Military trained. This wasn't just Los Lirios. This was a coordinated strike force. Inside.
Now.
Raphael pushed Lucia deeper into the warehouse. His men followed, and someone slammed the heavy metal door shut just as bullets began hammering against it. The warehouse interior was vast and dark. Rows of shipping containers created a maze of shadows. Somewhere above, skylights let in streams of moonlight. We're trapped, one of Raphael's soldiers said, his voice tight with fear. No, Raphael's mind worked through possibilities. We're in a defensive position. They have to come to us. That's an advantage. They've got us outnumbered and outgunned, Marcus argued. And those snipers are still out there. The moment we try to leave, they'll cut us down. Then we don't leave through the front, Raphael pointed toward the back of the warehouse. There's a service entrance on the water side. We can make it to the boats. You're assuming they haven't covered that exit too, Marcus said. They can't cover everything. Not with 6 men and a few snipers. Raphael turned to his soldiers. 3 of you with me and Lucia. Marcus, Take the other 3 and create a diversion at this entrance. Make them think we're preparing for a stand. In 5 minutes, blow out the lights and move to the north side. We'll rendezvous at the boats. That's a suicide play for my team, Marcus said flatly. You'll be fine. You've survived worse, Raphael gripped his shoulder. 5 minutes. Don't be late. Marcus nodded grimly. Raphael led Lucia and 3 soldiers toward the rear of the warehouse, moving between shipping containers. The sound of men shouting outside grew louder, Los Lirios troops organizing their assault. They'd almost reached the back exit when Lucia grabbed Raphael's arm. Wait, she whispered urgently. Listen.
Rafael paused.
Footsteps. Coming from the service entrance. Someone was already inside. He signaled his men to take cover. They pressed against a shipping container, weapons ready. 3 cartel soldiers entered through the back door, flashlights cutting through the darkness. They moved cautiously, checking corners. Están aquí, one of them whispered into a radio. We're moving in. Raphael made a quick decision. They couldn't fight their way through both exits. They needed a different option. He looked up. The shipping containers were stacked 3 high. If they could reach the catwalks near the roof, they could move above the search teams and find another way out. Up, he mouthed to his team, pointing at a ladder welded to the nearest container. They climbed silently. Lucia went first, her movements quick despite her fear. Raphael followed, keeping watch below. His soldiers brought up the rear. They reached the catwalk just as Los Lirios troops entered the main floor. Flashlight beams swept the darkness below, searching. Spread out, someone ordered in Spanish. They're here somewhere. Raphael and his team moved along the catwalk toward the north side of the building. The metal grating creaked slightly under their weight. Below, the cartel soldiers searched methodically. They were halfway across when Lucia's foot slipped. She stumbled, catching herself on the railing, but her phone fell from her pocket. It seemed to fall in slow motion. The phone hit the concrete floor with a sharp crack that echoed through the warehouse. Every flashlight beam immediately converged on their position.
Ahí va.
They're on the catwalk, someone shouted. Gunfire erupted. Bullets pinged off metal around them. Run!
Rafael shouted.
They sprinted along the catwalk as the world exploded with muzzle flashes below. One of Raphael's soldiers cried out and fell, hit in the leg. Another stayed behind to provide cover fire. Raphael grabbed Lucia's hand and pulled her forward. A skylight was ahead, their only chance. He fired 3 shots at the glass. It shattered. Through there. That's a roof, Lucia protested. It's also not here. Raphael boosted her up. She grabbed the skylight frame and pulled herself through. Raphael followed, hauling himself onto the warehouse roof. Below, the gunfire continued. His remaining soldier emerged through the skylight seconds later, breathing hard. The roof stretched before them, corrugated metal sloping toward the water. In the distance, Raphael could see the boats docked at the marina. We jump. Lucia looked at the 20-foot drop to the water below. We jump, Raphael confirmed. Boots clanged on the catwalk inside. Los Lirios was coming. On 3, Raphael said.
1, 2 inch.
A sniper shot whistled past Raphael's head, missing by inches. The shooter from earlier. He'd repositioned.
Now.
Raphael grabbed Lucia and leaped. They hit the water hard. Cold Chicago River water closed over Raphael's head. He kicked upward, breaking the surface, gasping for air. Lucia surfaced beside him, coughing. Bullets peppered the water around them. Swim. Raphael grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the marina. They swam through the darkness, bullets chasing them. Raphael's lungs burned, his suit weighing him down. They reached a boat dock. Raphael hauled himself up, then pulled Lucia after him. They collapsed on the wooden planks, soaking wet and gasping. Are you hit? Raphael checked Lucia for wounds.
No.
You? I'm fine. Raphael looked back at the warehouse. Flashlights moved along the roof. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had finally called the police. "We need to move before the cops arrive," Raphael said, struggling to his feet. Lucia looked at him, water dripping from her hair, her eyes wide with adrenaline and fear. "You saved my life. When that sniper fired, you grabbed me. You used yourself as a shield." "You saved mine first," Raphael replied. "When I stumbled, you kept me on my feet. We're even." A slight smile crossed her face despite everything. "I guess we are." They found a service ladder and climbed down to a lower dock where a small motorboat was tied. Raphael hot-wired it in 30 seconds, a skill from his youth, and they sped away across the dark water. Behind them, the warehouse district blazed with police lights and the chaos of Los Lirios retreating into the night. Raphael's phone buzzed again. Another message from Victor. "Almost had you. Next time." Raphael deleted the message and looked at Lucia, shivering beside him in wet clothes but alive, fierce, unbroken. "Next time," Raphael said quietly, "we'll be ready." Raphael and Lucia returned to the estate at 2 a.m., soaking wet and exhausted. Dr. Vasquez was waiting at the service entrance with dry clothes and a medical kit. He checked them both for hypothermia and injuries, pronouncing them bruised but alive. "Your daughter's awake," the doctor said as he wrapped a blanket around Lucia's shoulders. "She's been asking for you. Both of you." Raphael exchanged a glance with Lucia. They'd barely had time to process what happened at the docks, and now they had to face Camila. They found her in a guest room on the second floor. Dr. Vasquez had moved her from the safe room to somewhere more comfortable. She sat propped up against pillows, her face still pale, but her eyes alert. Sarah, her roommate, dozed in a chair nearby. Camila's eyes widened when she saw them enter. "Oh my God, what happened to you?" "Long story," Raphael said, closing the door quietly. "How are you feeling?"
Better.
The pain meds are helping. Camila studied their faces carefully. "You look terrible. Both of you." Lucia managed a weak smile. "We've had an eventful evening." "Dad, what's going on?" "Sarah told me there was a gas leak at our apartment, but I know that's not true. And the guards outside my door. This isn't about keeping me safe from a gas leak." Raphael pulled a chair beside the bed and sat down heavily. Lucia remained standing near the window, keeping watch.
"No, Rafael admitted."
"It's not." For the next 10 minutes, he told her everything. The raid on the ice factory, Mateo's betrayal, the ambush at the docks, Los Lirios' coordinated attack. He left out the worst details, the bodies, the close calls, the moments where they'd almost died, but he gave her enough to understand the scope of the war that had erupted around her. When he finished, Camila was silent for a long moment. Tears tracked down her cheeks. "This is my fault," she whispered. "No," Raphael said firmly. "This is Mateo's fault. This is Los Lirios' fault. This is my fault for making the enemies I made. But it's not yours." "You don't understand," Camila wiped her eyes. "I knew this might happen. I knew they might come for me. And I didn't warn you." Raphael went still. "What are you talking about?" Camila took a shaky breath. 3 months ago, Rosa, the girl you rescued from the trafficking ring, she came to me at the shelter. She was terrified. She said Los Lirios had found her. They'd sent someone to her new apartment with a message. What message? That she needed to tell them everything about the man who freed her. Description, location, organization. They wanted to know who disrupted their operation. Camila's voice cracked. Rosa refused. She said you'd saved her life, and she wouldn't betray you. So they threatened her family back in Mexico. Raphael felt cold spreading through his chest. Did she tell them?
No.
She came to me instead. She knew I volunteered at the shelter, but she didn't know I was your daughter. I'd used Mom's maiden name, Torres, to keep my distance from your world. Camila looked at him. But when she described the man who saved her, I knew it was you. The scar, the accent, everything. Why didn't you contact me? Because I was angry. I'd spent 5 years trying to build a life separate from your criminal empire. I didn't want to be pulled back in. Fresh tears spilled down her face. And I was stupid. I thought if I just helped Rosa disappear, new city, new identity, that would be the end of it. I helped her relocate to Milwaukee. I thought she'd be safe. Los Lirios found her anyway, Lucia said quietly from the window. Camila nodded miserably. 2 months ago. They killed her and her host family. Made it look like a home invasion. I only found out when the Milwaukee police contacted our shelter about her background. They'd found my contact information in her things. Raphael closed his eyes. Another innocent dead, because of his actions. Another life he couldn't save. That's when I knew they were serious, Camila continued. I started being more careful. Changed my routines, looked over my shoulder. But I still didn't call you because I was stubborn and proud, and her voice broke. And now people are dying because I didn't want to admit I needed my father's help. Stop, Raphael took her hand. Rosa's death isn't your fault. The attack on you isn't your fault. You tried to protect her. You tried to do the right thing. But it wasn't enough. It never is, Raphael said quietly. That's the lesson I learned a long time ago. We do what we can, save who we can, and carry the weight of those we couldn't save. Lucia stepped forward. Camila, did Rosa tell you anything else about Los Lirios? Anything that might help us now? Camila wiped her eyes and nodded. She told me everything she knew. I wrote it all down and kept it hidden. I thought maybe someday I could give it to the FBI or someone who could actually stop them. She looked at Raphael. But the FBI can't stop them, can they? Not really.
No, Rafael admitted.
They can't. This kind of war, it doesn't happen in courtrooms. Camila reached under her pillow and pulled out a small notebook. Then maybe this can help you finish it. Raphael took the notebook and opened it. Page after page of detailed notes in Camila's neat handwriting. Names, locations, operational methods, trafficking routes. Rosa had given Camila everything she'd learned during her captivity. This is incredible, Lucia breathed, reading over Raphael's shoulder. Rosa was smart, Camila said. She memorized everything she saw and heard because she knew someday it might matter. She knew other girls were still trapped, still suffering. She wanted someone to save them like you saved her. Raphael flipped to a page marked Leadership. At the top, circled multiple times, was a name. Victor Reyes, Regional Commander, North Operations. Below it, Rosa had written, controls everything from Chicago to Canadian border. Answers only to the Consejo, the council in Mexico City. Ruthless but smart. Never gets his hands dirty. Uses locals as buffers. Specialty. Making examples of enemies to maintain fear. There's more, Camila said. She pointed to a section near the back. Rosa said Los Lirios doesn't just want revenge on you. They want to make you an example. They want every criminal organization in the Midwest to see what happens when you interfere with their business. So, this isn't just about $800,000, Lucia said. It was never about the money, Camila confirmed. It's about power. About reputation. They need to destroy you publicly to show they're untouchable. Raphael studied the notebook. Between Rosa's intelligence and the evidence from the ice factory, they finally had a complete picture of their enemy. Dad, Camila said softly. There's something else. Something Rosa made me promise to tell someone if anything happened to her. What? Los Lirios doesn't just traffic people for labor or ransom. They have buyers. Wealthy people who purchase specific types of victims. Rosa said she was in a catalog, like livestock. Camila's voice shook. They were going to sell her to someone in Canada who'd requested a teenage girl matching her description. The room went silent. How many others? Lucia asked. Rosa didn't know exact numbers. But she said there were 5 shipping containers in that warehouse when you raided it. She was in one. The other 4, Camila couldn't finish. 40 people, Raphael said, his voice hollow. We freed 40 people. Which means Los Lirios lost merchandise they'd already sold. They lost buyers. They lost a network that took years to build. And that's why they'll never stop coming for you, Camila said. Not until you're dead or destroyed. Because as long as you're standing, you're proof that someone can hurt them. And they can't allow that. Raphael closed the notebook and looked at his daughter. She was 23 years old, barely older than some of the girls Rosa had described. And Los Lirios had tried to take her, not just for leverage, but as retaliation. I need you to understand something, Raphael said. What I did at that warehouse, freeing those people, that's the one thing in my entire criminal career I've never regretted. Not for a second. I know, Camila whispered. That's why I'm helping you now. Because the man who would burn down a trafficking operation to save strangers, that man deserves to win this war. Raphael stood and kissed her forehead.
Rest.
You've given us more than enough. As he and Lucia turned to leave, Camila called out, Lucia? Lucia turned back. Thank you, Camila said, for saving me, for staying with my father, for being brave when you didn't have to be. Lucia smiled softly. Someone very special once taught me that bravery means helping people even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Camila tilted her head, something flickering in her eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or a memory just out of reach. Have we met before? She asked. Maybe in another life, Lucia said gently. Get some rest, Camila. Outside the room, Raphael held up the notebook. This changes everything. With this information and what we found at the ice factory, we can map their entire operation. And then we dismantle it, Raphael said grimly.
Piece by piece.
Until Victor Reyes has nothing left. Until Los Lirios learns what it means to threaten a Caldero. Lucia nodded. When do we start? Now, Raphael said. We've wasted enough time playing defense. It's time to take this war to them. The drive to the Illinois-Indiana border took 3 hours. Raphael sat in the passenger seat of an unmarked van, studying maps and satellite images on a tablet. Marcus drove, while Lucia sat in the back with 4 of Raphael's most trusted soldiers. The border outpost wasn't actually on the Mexican border. That would be too obvious. Los Lirios had established a logistics hub near Gary, Indiana, where shipments from the south were repackaged and redistributed throughout the Midwest. According to Rose's notebook and the intelligence from the ice factory, this facility processed everything: drugs, weapons, and human cargo. It was also where Victor Reyes occasionally visited to oversee operations. 3 buildings, Marcus said, pulling up thermal imaging on his own device. Main warehouse in the center, administrative office on the east side, and what looks like barracks or holding cells on the west. Lucia leaned forward between the seats. Rosa wrote that they keep people in the west building until transport can be arranged. If we're lucky, there might be prisoners there now. And if we're unlucky, we're walking into a trap, one of the soldiers muttered. It's not a trap, Raphael said with certainty. Victor doesn't know we have Rosa's notebook. He thinks Camila is just a sheltered volunteer who knows nothing about cartel operations. This location isn't on any of the documents we seized from the ice factory. It's completely off his radar that we know about it. What's the play? Marcus asked. Raphael zoomed in on the facility layout. Lucia goes in first, posing as a medical contractor. Rosa noted they always need doctors and nurses because they can't exactly take injured traffickers to hospitals. Lucia has credentials, speaks fluent Spanish, and knows their protocols. Lucia nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. I get inside, disable their communications, and unlock the east entrance. You breach from multiple points simultaneously. What if they verify your credentials? One of the soldiers asked. They won't have time, Raphael said. We hit them at shift change, 6 p.m. That's when their guards are most distracted and when new contractors typically arrive. Lucia gets 5 minutes inside before we move. If she's not at the east entrance, by 6:05, we breach anyway and fight our way to her. Risky, Marcus observed. Everything about this war is risky, Raphael replied. But we've been reacting to their moves for too long. Time to make them react to ours. They arrived at a rest stop 2 miles from the facility at 5:30 p.m. The sun was setting, painting the industrial wasteland in shades of orange and gold. Lucia changed in the van's back section, emerging in navy blue scrubs and a white coat. She'd pinned her hair up and wore glasses, a different look, more professional. Raphael handed her a small earpiece. We'll hear everything you say. If you're in trouble, say the word Chicago, and we come in immediately. Understood. Lucia checked her medical bag. It contained actual supplies, but hidden in a false bottom were wire cutters and a signal jammer. You don't have to do this, Raphael said quietly. We can find another way. Lucia met his eyes. Yes, I do. For Rosa. For Camila. For every person they've hurt. She touched the small cross necklace at her throat, the only jewelry she wore. I'm ready. She drove a separate vehicle, a nondescript sedan they'd stolen that afternoon. Raphael and his team followed at a distance, parking in an abandoned factory lot with a clear view of the Los Lirios facility. Through binoculars, Raphael watched Lucia approach the main gate. A guard stepped out of the booth, weapon visible on his hip. They spoke briefly, too far away to hear, but Raphael could see Lucia gesture to her medical bag, showing credentials. Come on, Raphael muttered. Let her through. The guard made a phone call. 30 seconds that felt like hours. Then the gate swung open. Lucia drove inside. She's in, Marcus confirmed, listening through the communications link. I can hear conversations in Spanish. She's being escorted to the main building. Raphael checked his watch. 5:47 p.m. They had 18 minutes until shift change. Through the earpiece, they heard Lucia's voice, calm and professional. I was told you had workers with injuries from the last shipment? I'm here to provide treatment. A male voice responded in Spanish. This way. We have 3 men in the barracks. One has an infected bullet wound, another broke his arm, and the third, well, you'll see. Footsteps. A door opening. Then Lucia's sharp intake of breath. What is it? The escort asked. This man needs a hospital, Lucia said urgently. This infection is severe. He could die. He does his job or he dies. Makes no difference to us. Just patch him up enough to work. Raphael heard the cold fury in Lucia's response. I'll do what I can. More footsteps. Raphael tracked her movement on the tablet, watching the thermal signature that had to be Lucia moving through the facility. 5:52 p.m. I need to check your medical supplies, Lucia said. Where do you keep antibiotics and surgical equipment? Administrative building, 2nd floor. I'll take you. No need. I can find it. You should return to your post. Shift change is coming and your replacement will want a briefing, yes. A pause. Raphael held his breath. See, you're right. 2nd floor, room marked Suministros. Thank you.
Rafael exhaled.
She was separating from her escort. 5:55 p.m. I'm in the administrative building. Lucia's voice came through clearly now. 2nd floor. I see the communications equipment. Looks like a standard radio setup and what might be a cell signal booster. Can you disable it? Raphael asked quietly into his mic. Working on it, sounds of cabinet doors opening. The click of equipment being moved.
Done.
Their external communications are down. They'll notice in a few minutes, but it'll take longer to diagnose why. East entrance. Going there now, footsteps on stairs. A door opening. I'm there. Unlocking, wait. There's someone coming.
Rafael tensed.
Lucia? Voices in Spanish. A guard asking what she was doing in this section. I was looking for the bathroom, Lucia replied smoothly. This building is confusing. All the doors look the same. Bathrooms are downstairs. This area is restricted. I apologize. I'll go back down.
Wait.
You're the new nurse.
Yes.
Lucia Martinez. Show me your credentials again. Raphael's hand moved to his weapon. If she says Chicago, we move. Through the earpiece, paper rustling. The guard examining documents. 6 p.m. Shift change. These look fine, the guard said finally. But you shouldn't be up here. Go. Of course. Thank you. Footsteps retreating. Then, barely a whisper. East entrance is unlocked. But we have a problem. I saw into the west building when they walked me past. There are people in cages. At least 20. Men, women. Her voice cracked. Children. Raphael closed his eyes. He'd hoped the facility would be empty of prisoners. Hoped they could destroy the operation without having to navigate the complexities of rescue. But hope was a luxury he'd never been able to afford. Change of plans, Raphael said into his mic. Marcus, take 3 men and breach the West Building. Free the prisoners and get them to the vehicles. Everyone else with me. We're clearing the main warehouse and taking prisoners for interrogation. What about the administrative building? Marcus asked. Lucia's there. She can handle herself until we secure the perimeter. Raphael checked his weapons one last time. Move in 2 minutes. Silent approach. Once we breach, it's loud and fast. No survivors among the armed guards. Anyone who surrenders gets zip-tied and questioned later. His team nodded, faces grim with purpose. 6:02 p.m. Raphael and his soldiers moved through the twilight like shadows. The facility's perimeter fence had blind spots, a weakness Rosa had documented. They cut through chain link and slipped inside. 6:04 p.m. Raphael reached the east entrance. The door was unlocked as promised. He entered the administrative building, his team flowing in behind him. They cleared the first floor in 90 seconds. 2 guards, neutralized quietly.
No alarms.
Upstairs, Raphael found Lucia in a supply room, filling her medical bag with actual antibiotics and supplies. For the prisoners, she explained. Some of them look sick.
Rafael nodded.
Stay here until we're clear. Then help Marcus with the prisoners. Be careful, Lucia said. Raphael allowed himself a brief smile. Always am. He moved toward the main warehouse. Through the windows, he could see workers moving between shipment crates. Guards stationed at strategic points. All of them armed. This was going to get messy. Raphael keyed his mic. All teams, breach in 3,
2,
1 inch. The night exploded with violence. Raphael's team burst through multiple entrances simultaneously. Flashbangs disoriented the guards. Gunfire erupted as Los Lirios soldiers scrambled for cover. Raphael moved through the chaos with practiced efficiency, his weapon barking controlled shots. 1 guard down.
2, 3.
Someone threw a shipping crate at him. Raphael dove aside, rolled, came up firing. The warehouse became a war zone. Bullets ricocheting off metal, men shouting in Spanish and English, the acrid smell of gunpowder filling the air. Through it all, Raphael pushed toward the facility commander's office. According to the thermal imaging, someone important was holed up there. Maybe even Victor Reyes himself. The intelligence from the Gary facility had been invaluable. Raphael's team had captured the regional commander, not Victor Reyes, but his second-in-command, a man named Felipe Morales. After 6 hours of interrogation, Felipe had given them everything: Victor's location, the compound's defenses, and most importantly, the fact that Victor would be there tonight for a strategy meeting with his cell leaders. All of Los Lirios' Chicago leadership in one place. It was almost too perfect, but Raphael had learned to be suspicious of perfect opportunities. Now, 3 days after the Gary raid, Raphael stood in a forest clearing 30 miles outside the city, looking at the compound through night vision binoculars. The estate was a converted hunting lodge, isolated, heavily fortified, and surrounded by 20 acres of woods. 8 guards on the perimeter, Marcus reported. Another dozen inside based on thermal signatures. And that doesn't count whoever's in the basement level. Thunder rumbled overhead. Storm clouds had been building all evening, and now the first drops of rain began to fall. The weather works in our favor, Raphael said. Reduces visibility. Mask sound. Lucia appeared beside them, dressed in the same medical contractor outfit she'd worn at Gary. But this time, she carried forged documents identifying her as Dr. Carmen Ruiz, a trauma surgeon from Guadalajara with Los Lirios connections. You really think they'll let you walk in? Marcus asked skeptically. Felipe made the call, Lucia replied. He told Victor that their regular doctor couldn't make it and recommended me as a replacement. Someone always gets hurt during these meetings, Too much drinking, too many egos in one room. They need medical staff on standby. And if Victor suspects, then I improvise. Lucia checked her medical bag. Inside, hidden beneath surgical supplies, was a compact pistol and the tools she'd need to open the compound's back entrance. Raphael studied her face in the dim light. Last chance to back out. Not a chance, Lucia said firmly. Let's finish this. She drove up to the main gate in a rental car at exactly 9 p.m. The rain was falling steadily now, creating a curtain of water that obscured the compound. Guards approached with flashlights and weapons. Through the communications link, Raphael heard everything. Dr. Ruiz, Lucia said in perfect Spanish. Felipe Morales sent me. I believe you're expecting me? Papers rustling. Radio chatter. Then, go ahead. Park near the main entrance. Someone will escort you inside. The gate opened. Raphael waited 5 minutes, then signaled his team. 20 men moved through the forest in practiced silence. The rain masked their approach, soaking through their tactical gear, but giving them the cover they needed. Inside the compound, Lucia was escorted to a medical station set up in what had once been a trophy room. Mounted deer heads stared down from the walls with glass eyes. She could hear voices from the main hall, men arguing in Spanish about territory and percentages. Wait here, her escort said. If we need you, we'll call. Lucia nodded and began unpacking her supplies, arranging them carefully. As soon as the escort left, she moved to the door and listened. Footsteps fading down the hallway. Voices from the main hall, but no one nearby. She slipped out and moved quickly toward the compound's security center. According to Felipe's information, it was located in a converted library on the first floor. She found it easily, the only room with cameras monitoring every angle of the property. One guard sat at the console, watching multiple screens. He didn't hear her approach until she pressed the pistol against his neck. Don't move, she whispered in Spanish. Your radio, slide it to me slowly. He complied, hands shaking. Now the alarm system. Disable it. I can't, they'll know. Lucia pressed the gun harder. Disable it, or I'll shoot you and do it myself. Your choice. His fingers moved across the keyboard. Beeps and clicks. Done. Security cameras? Already looping footage. Standard procedure during meetings. They don't like being recorded.
Perfect.
Lucia zip-tied his hands and gagged him, then moved to the back entrance, a reinforced door that led to a service courtyard. She unlocked it and pressed her earpiece. East side is open. Security is down.
Come in quiet.
Copy, Raphael's voice responded. Moving now. Raphael's team flowed into the compound like water through cracks. They moved through darkened hallways, clearing rooms with surgical precision.
No alarms.
No resistance yet. The main hall was ahead, light spilling from beneath the double doors. Voices inside, at least 10 distinct speakers. Raphael positioned his team. Marcus on the right. 3 soldiers covering the rear exit. 2 more securing their escape route. Through the door gap, Raphael could see men seated around a long table. Maps spread before them. Money stacked in neat piles. And at the head of the table, a man in an expensive suit with silver hair and cold eyes. Victor Reyes. Remember, Raphael whispered to his team. Victor is mine. Everyone else is fair game. He kicked the door open. The room exploded into chaos. Los Lirios soldiers reached for weapons. Raphael's team opened fire. The air filled with gunfire and shouting. Raphael moved through the carnage with singular focus. Victor's bodyguards threw themselves in front of their boss, returning fire. One of Raphael's men went down. Then another. But Raphael kept moving forward, his weapon barking shots. One bodyguard fell. Then the second. Victor grabbed a pistol from the table and fired. The shot went wide, shattering a window behind Raphael. Rain and wind howled through the opening. Raphael dove behind an overturned table. Bullets chewed through the wood above his head. You should have paid, Victor shouted over the gunfire. You should have surrendered when you had the chance. I don't surrender to dead men. Raphael returned fire, forcing Victor to duck. The fight raged around them. Marcus was trading shots with a Los Lirios lieutenant near the fireplace. Bodies littered the floor. The smell of blood and gunpowder was overwhelming. Raphael saw his opportunity. While Victor reloaded, Raphael rushed forward, tackling him. They crashed through a side door into what looked like a study. Both men lost their weapons in the fall. They grappled on the floor, throwing punches. Victor was younger, faster. But Raphael had decades of experience in close-quarters combat. Victor grabbed a letter opener from a desk and slashed at Raphael's face. The blade caught his cheek, opening a cut. Raphael grabbed Victor's wrist, twisted hard. Bones cracked. Victor screamed. The letter opener clattered to the floor. Raphael drove his fist into Victor's face.
Once. Twice.
3 times. Blood sprayed. Victor's struggles weakened. "This is for my daughter," Raphael said, his voice cold as death. "For Rosa. For every person you trafficked and sold and destroyed." He grabbed Victor by the throat. "You wanted to make an example of me? I'm making an example of you." Victor's eyes widened with terror. "Please, I can pay. I can give you."
Raphael squeezed.
Victor thrashed, his face turning purple. His hands clawed at Raphael's arms, desperately trying to break free. But Raphael didn't let go. He watched the life drain from Victor's eyes until the body went limp beneath him. It was over. Raphael stood, breathing hard, covered in blood, some his, most Victor's. He walked back into the main hall. The shooting had stopped. Los Lirios soldiers lay dead or restrained. Marcus was checking casualties. They'd lost 3 men, with 2 more wounded. Lucia appeared in the doorway, her medical bag in hand, her face pale but determined. "I heard shooting. Who needs help?"
"Are wounded," Raphael said.
"The cartel members. Let them bleed." Lucia nodded and moved to help the injured soldiers. Raphael looked around a room at the carnage, at the maps showing Los Lirios' entire operation now leaderless, at the money that would be seized, at the drugs and weapons that would be destroyed. Los Lirios in Chicago was finished. "Boss," Marcus said, holding up a laptop. "This has everything. Their entire network. Contacts in Mexico City. Financial records.
Routes.
Safe houses we haven't found yet. Copy it all," Raphael ordered. "Then burn this place to the ground." His team moved efficiently, gathering evidence and planting incendiaries. Within 20 minutes, they were back in the vehicles, racing away through the storm. Behind them, the compound erupted in flames. Lightning flashed overhead as if nature itself was celebrating their victory. Raphael sat in the passenger seat, watching the orange glow fade in the side mirror. Lucia sat in the back, bandaging one of the wounded soldiers. "Is it really over?" she asked quietly. Raphael touched the cut on his cheek. "The war with Los Lirios? Yes. But there will always be another enemy. Another threat. Then we'll face it," Lucia said. "Together." Raphael met her eyes in the mirror and nodded. Together. The storm raged as they drove toward Chicago, toward home, toward whatever came next. 2 weeks later, the estate felt different. Quieter. Safer. The cut on Raphael's cheek had healed into a thin scar, a permanent reminder of the night he'd ended Victor Reyes. The news had reported the compound fire as a gas explosion at an abandoned property. No bodies were ever officially identified. Los Lirios' remaining cells in Chicago had scattered like rats, their leadership gone, their operations in chaos. Raphael had dismantled the traitors within his organization methodically. Anyone who'd known about Mateo's betrayal and stayed silent was gone. His empire was smaller now, but stronger, built on loyalty tested by fire. He stood in the garden, watching Camila walk slowly along the stone path. She'd been out of bed for a week now, her wound healing well. Dr. Vasquez said she'd make a full recovery, though the scar would remain. She seemed different. Less angry. more present. Beautiful morning, Lucia said, joining him. She wore jeans and a comfortable sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She'd stopped dressing like a maid weeks ago. It is, Raphael agreed. They watched Camila in comfortable silence. She'd been spending time with Sarah, who'd finally learned the truth about the gas leak, and decided to stay anyway. True friendship was rare in Raphael's world. He was glad his daughter had found it. I need to tell her, Lucia said quietly. About St. Catherine's. About Maria. When? Today. She keeps looking at me like she's trying to remember something. It's not fair to keep her guessing.
Rafael nodded.
She'll be happy to know you. The real you. Lucia smiled sadly. I hope so. Camila saw them and waved, walking over slowly. Her movements were still careful, protecting her healing side. Dad, Lucia. I was hoping to find you both, she looked between them. I wanted to say something. Something important. Sit, Raphael said, gesturing to a nearby bench. You shouldn't overdo it.
I've fine.
Dr. Vasquez cleared me for light activity, but she sat anyway, and Raphael and Lucia joined her on either side. Camila took a deep breath. I've been thinking a lot these past 2 weeks. About what happened. About what you both did to stop Los Lirios. About the people you saved from that compound, 23 people, including 8 children. Marcus told me. We did what was necessary, Raphael said. No, Camila shook her head. You did what was right. There's a difference, she looked at her father. For 5 years, I convinced myself that you were just a criminal. That everything you did was selfish and harmful. That you were destroying the world one deal at a time. Raphael's chest tightened. He'd known his daughter felt this way, but hearing it spoken aloud still hurt. But then Los Lirios came for me, Camila continued. And I saw what real evil looks like. Not complicated morality or gray areas, actual evil. People who treat human beings as merchandise. Who would have sold me to the highest bidder without a second thought. Tears welled in her eyes. And the person who stopped them was you, Camila. Let me finish, she wiped her eyes. You're not a good man by most definitions. You've done things I'll never approve of. But you're my father, and when it mattered most, you were there. You risked everything to protect me. Raphael felt his own eyes burning. I would burn down the entire world for you. I know. And that terrifies me and comforts me in equal measure. Camila took his hand. I can't go back to pretending you don't exist. I can't keep running from who you are and from the fact that I'm your daughter. So, I'm not going to try anymore. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to be part of your life again. On my terms with boundaries, but part of it. Because despite everything, you're still my dad. And I almost lost you without ever giving us a chance to fix what was broken. Raphael pulled her into a careful hug, mindful of her injury. She pressed her face against his shoulder and cried. Not tears of pain or fear, but of release. Of 5 years of walls finally coming down.
I'm sorry, Raphael whispered.
For everything I put you and your mother through. For the life you deserved but never got because of my choices. I know, Camila said. And I forgive you. Not for everything, some things still hurt too much. But for enough. For now. It was more than Raphael had ever hoped to hear. When they finally separated, Camila turned to Lucia. And you saved my life. Risked your own life multiple times to protect me and my father.
I don't know how to repay that.
Lucia smiled gently. You don't need to repay anything. I did it because, she paused, making a decision. I did it because you're special to me, Camila. You have been for a long time. Camila tilted her head, confused. What do you mean? Do you remember St. Catherine's Home for Children? 7 years ago. Camila's eyes widened. The orphanage? I volunteered there when I was 16-inch. You worked with a nursing student named Maria. Blonde hair, glasses, always wore her hair in a braid. Recognition dawned across Camila's face like sunrise. Maria? Oh my God. Maria. She stared at Lucia. That was you? I changed my appearance when I went into hiding. Changed my name back to Lucia. But yes, that was me. Camila laughed, a sound of pure astonishment. You taught me how to change bandages, how to calm scared children. You told me about medical school and made me think I could actually help people even though my father was— She stopped, covering her mouth. You knew who I was? The whole time. Not at first. I recognized you during the kidnapping. Your face, your voice. It all came back. Lucia's voice was thick with emotion. You were the first person who made me feel normal after witnessing that execution. You treated me like a friend, not like someone damaged. I never forgot that kindness. Tears streamed down Camila's face. I wondered what happened to you. You just disappeared one day. I was scared, running. But I never forgot you. Lucia took Camila's hand. And when I saw those men hurting you, there was no question. I would protect you with everything I had. Camila pulled Lucia into a fierce hug. Thank you. For then, for now, for everything. Raphael watched them, these two women who'd saved each other in different ways, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not for his empire or his wealth, but for something more precious. Family. So, what happens now? Camila asked, wiping her eyes and looking between them. Raphael stood and helped both women to their feet. Now we rebuild. I've made changes to the organization, eliminated anyone who can't be trusted, strengthened our legitimate operations, and I'm considering transitioning more of the business into legal enterprises. Really? Camila looked skeptical. Really? I'm not getting any younger, and this war showed me that enemies will always come for what I've built. But if what I've built is legitimate, if it's something worth defending beyond just money and power, he paused. Maybe that's a legacy worth leaving you. I'm not taking over your criminal empire, Dad. I know. But maybe you could help me transform it into something better. Something your mother wouldn't be ashamed of. Camila considered this. That's going to take time. Years, probably. And a lot of hard work. I have time. And I'm willing to do the work. Raphael looked at Lucia. We both are. Lucia nodded. Whatever Camila needs, whatever helps her heal and move forward. I'm here for it. And you? Raphael asked Lucia. What do you want? I've promoted you, paid you well, but what do you actually want for yourself? Lucia thought for a moment. Safety. Family. Purpose. I spent 7 years running and hiding. I'm done with that. This. She gestured to the three of them. This feels like home. Like somewhere I belong. Then your family, Raphael said simply. Not an employee. Family. You protect my daughter. You stand by my side. You've earned blood loyalty without spilling blood for personal gain. That's rare in my world. In any world, Camila added. Raphael extended his hand to Lucia. Lucia Martinez, I'm making this official. You're under the protection of the Caldero family. No one touches you. No one threatens you. You're one of us now. Lucia shook his hand, then pulled both Raphael and Camila into a hug. They stood there in the garden, three people bound not by blood or obligation, but by choice and sacrifice. We should celebrate, Camila said, pulling back. Dinner tonight? The three of us? Nothing fancy, just family. I'd like that, Raphael said. Me too, Lucia agreed. As they walked back toward the house together, Camila between Raphael and Lucia, Raphael allowed himself to feel something he'd thought lost forever. Not redemption, he was too far gone for that. But maybe a chance at peace. Marcus met them at the back door. Boss, the perimeter security upgrades are complete. We've also heard that the remaining Los Lirios cells have pulled completely out of Chicago. They're calling this territory cursed after what you did to their leadership.
Rafael nodded.
Good. Let them tell stories. Let every cartel from here to Mexico City know what happens when they threaten a Caldero. Yes, sir. Inside, Sarah was cooking in the kitchen, attempting to make enchiladas with Dr. Vasquez's amused supervision. The house smelled like home, like life continuing after war. Raphael stood in the doorway, watching his daughter laugh with her friend, watching Lucia join them to help with the cooking, and felt the weight of 2 decades of violence and choices settle a little lighter on his shoulders. He'd been a criminal, a killer, a man who'd built an empire on fear and blood. He couldn't change that. But maybe, with time and effort, he could build something better on that foundation. For Camila, for the memory of Maria, his wife. For Lucia, who'd shown him that loyalty could be earned through courage and compassion. His phone buzzed. Another message, another threat, another problem demanding his attention. But tonight, Raphael decided it could wait. Tonight was for family. The end.